Reading 1 into the introduction of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Inheritor of a dying world, we call thee to the living beauty, wanderer in the wild darkness. We call thee to the gentle light. Long hast thou dwelt in darkness, quit the night and seek the day. With these poetic and deeply symbolic words, the three principal officers in the neophyte grade ceremony ritually bring the candidate into the Order of the Golden Dawn as well as to the light. This is not unlike Enninger's explanation in Ego and Archetype of the circular development of the ego-self axis, of which the anima may be the bridge. The night is the unconscious, and the day increased consciousness. That's something very important to remember. Enninger refers to an alternating process of ego-self separation and ego-self union as a spiral-like psychological development. Throughout all of life, whereas there is a natural to the human condition, the system of the Golden Dawn acts as a precise catalytic agent which accelerates this growth towards soul, much as a hothouse or grow light influences the quality and development of plant growth. One may ask why the necessity for acceleration, considering the world's current political arena and that we are no longer in a deeper reality, separate nations, but a worldwide community. As much consciousness as possible is gravely necessary unto the very survival of our planet. Additionally, with pervasive technological implementation, we also must establish and maintain connection with the instinctual, transpersonal, and powerfully rooted experience of the deeper layers. Excuse me. Experience of the deeper layers of the unconscious. And for this, the Golden Dawn provides its wondrous reservoir of symbol, sacrament, and ceremony. It is important to establish that Israel Regardie did not look upon the Golden Dawn system as an abstruse or interesting occult oddity of the turn of this last century. In his initial introduction for the first publication of this book in the late 1930s, he writes, "It is for this reason that I hold that the Golden Dawn magic, the technique of initiation, is of supreme and inestimable importance to mankind at large. In it, the work of academic psychology may find a logical conclusion and fruition, so that it may develop further its own particular contribution to modern life and culture. For this psychomagical technique of ceremonial initiation indicates the solution of anima problem. Arise, shine, for light is come," and Regardie unreservedly maintained this position until his death in 1985. Thinking through and fully understanding the usage of such terms as occult or magic apart from their historically negative or even lurid connotations is fundamental. The association of these words with black magic or Satanism has uniformly been the result of hysteria, narcissistic theatrics, capitalization by the media, or psychosis. To truly explore the dark arts, or in other words, apprehend an archetype of the shadow, that's important there, or in other words, apprehend the archetype or shadow. Through systematic ritual work demands not only extraordinary knowledge, discipline, and training, but a great deal of plain hard work, toward which would-be dabblers never seem inclined. For any of us to integrate our darker side is a lifelong and necessary process, but a process which yields towards a more fullness of self. As Edinger comments, all these aspects of the rejected shadow are equated with the king, which means psychologically that acceptance of the shadow and compassion for the inferior man are equivalent acceptance of self. The masses have projected and not integrated their shadow from the witch burnings of Salem to congressional hearings on censorship of lyrics and rock music. The occult means nothing more than the study of what is hidden beyond the perception of the five senses. Electricity could be construed as an occult force, and indeed, to primitive man, as it manifested as an electrical storm, who partook of the mysterious since this was beyond the bounds of the ordinary. But electricity is no longer a magical force, for modern man has understood and harnessed it. So too, there are other forces beyond electricity and even nuclear power awaiting their further discovery and definition by man. And as Crowley articulated, magic means creating change through consciousness at will. The alchemical preceded the chemist, the astrologer the astronomer, and the magician is a threshold to an inner frontier which encompasses the limitless possibilities of the manifested and unknown universe as being contained, dormant, but inevitably actualized within the psyche. Let me read that again. Magic means creating change through consciousness at will. The alchemist preceded the chemist, the astrologer the astronomer, and the magician is a threshold to an inner frontier. See if I can close up on this because it's italicized. Which encompasses the limitless possibilities of the manifested and unknown universe as being contained, dormant, but inevitably actualized within the psyche. So that goes with as above, so below, as within, so without. We are connected to everything because we are everything. And we are not anything. Alright, here we go. There is no better explanation of the structure, function, and basic concepts of the Golden Dawn system than in Regardie's introduction to the original edition of the book contained herein. This extensive and clarifying narrative demands rereading again and again. The Golden Dawn is a system of discovering, dialoguing, even negotiating with the collective unconscious, and is not a religion, philosophy, or even a cult. As the candidate is about to take the obligation of the neophyte, the Hierophant assures him or her that there is nothing contrary to your civil, moral, or religious duties in the obligation. Furthermore, the Hierophant reminds the candidate to respect all religions, for each contains a spark of the divine. The key theme in both the Neophyte Grade and Ritual of Adeptus Minor is that of being brought to the light. This light is also referred to as LVX in the introduction to volumes 3-4, The Golden Dawn, Regardie's excellent analysis of the keyword INRI, and subsequent geometric correspondences and conclusions will bear fruit from continued study and meditation regarding this light. But a true secret of the entire system is that this light is not a metaphysical, philosophical, speculative construct, meaning grace, spirituality, or healing, although the light brings all of these, but is an actual force which, although independent of egoic man, can be generated by man through the use of his consciousness to bring about change at will. That's another very important part that I might need to reread. Secret of the entire system is that this light is not a metaphysical or philosophically speculative construct, meaning grace, spirituality, or healing, although the light does bring all of these, but is an actual force which, although independent of egoic man, can be generated by man through the use of his consciousness to bring about change at will. So, talking about energy here. Although the so-called new physics has begun to come closer with any variety of theoretical models for this force, the brilliant work of Fred Alan Wolf in such books as Starwave has come closest to explaining LVX and the paradigmatic raison d'etre for not only what the Golden Dawn is based upon, but why it works. Wolf's work echoes Rigardi's intuitive leap of 50 years ago when Rigardi felt, as in above quotation, that psychology would find its logical conclusion and fruition within the Golden Dawn system. Although Wolf makes no reference to the Golden Dawn LVX per se, he has dealt with a death knell to a classical physics model of psychological theory, while a quantum mechanics model has been astoundingly and secretly kerneled within the profound symbology and initiatory techniques of the Golden Dawn system for countless years. To quote Wolf, "It is my dream that quantum physics will bridge the gap between science and mysticism. As such, it must lead thinkers and researchers to a new view of human behavior." B.F. Skinner was not so wrong in attempting to deal with behavior scientifically, but he was the Newton of behaviorists. We now search for the Einstein and for the Bohr of human behavior to develop the quantum model of human beings. LVX is generated in a number of ways, and these are through ceremonial magic, the middle pillar technique, the vibratory formula of the middle pillar, and the opening by the watchtower. Although Rigardi published a progressive ritual use of the opening by the watchtower ceremonial magic, I would advise the beginning student to leave the particular ceremony strictly alone until he or she felt well within the initiatory containment and safety of the second order, either through personal work or within an initiatory group. Later there in this introduction, I will offer suggestions for the individual to plan a safe and successful approach to this work overall. This light knows no moral or conscionable dictate. Fire can burn your hand as surely as light knows no moral or conscionable dictate. But this is the holy and formless fire which either manifest in our external environment through the screen of our disciplined and conscious image making. Crowley gave great emphasis to developing the concentrated image making aspect of consciousness making, as well as through the automatic unconscious complexes of our personalities. Okay, I would like to note that is why the media flashes so many symbols, because it goes to our unconscious mind, and then we help manifest what they want, they being the ones that own the media, that are in charge, or at the top of the pyramid, that are the black magicians, the black madonnas. And hence Rigardi insisted upon some form of psychotherapeutic work once the unconscious had been activated by the ritual work, since it was unlikely that the neophyte had yet even knowledge of the possibility of control of image building with consciousness and what effect this would have on the personal life, let alone the discipline to implement it. The neophyte was equally unlikely to be aware of the sleeping dogs, to use a phrase of Blavatsky, or unconscious complexes of the personality, and how those unknown parts of ourselves influence our lives. See, there we go, talking about what I was just saying about flashing the symbols in all these commercials and TV, movies, and sports games. It's all about having an effect on us without us knowing. This brings us to a discussion of initiation. Initiation means beginning, and if performed effectively, brings the candidate to an entirely new threshold and phase of experience. Initiation in itself does not bring happiness or wishes come true. It is a starting point for difficult personal work ahead, and once the symbols are activated within the sphere of the candidate, it can mean many months, even years of difficult inward personal labor from one grade to the next. Inner completion of a ritual grade does not in fact bring a new awareness, more personal freedom from automatic parts of oneself, increased control over consciousness, image building, and a greater power. But with most of this is usually hard-won and painful. As to who is capable of initiating, the question of succession or lineage or the transfer of power has been debated for years regarding its pros and cons. Ultimately, the only person who can truly initiate another is one who has not only done the work pertaining to the particular grade, but for the complete order into which he or she initiates someone else. Unless the totality of the symbols is within the sphere of sensation of the initiator, little will be activated within the candidate, and the ritual will be shallow. The theatrics. As Jung wrote in a foreword into a book of Michael Fordham's, the treatment of transference reveals in a pitiless light what the healing agent really is. It is the degree to which the analyst himself can cope with his own psychic problems. Just as the analyst can no more guide an analysand through territory he or she never struggled with or confronted within him or herself, so too the initiator's effectiveness rests upon how well he or she has built the temple not made with hands within his or her own psyche. In the late 1960s, the seeds of my destiny were actively fertilized towards what I much later understood as my personal dance with the unconscious. The process of magical initiation, the Golden Dawn system, and the Western mystery tradition. In the earlier part of 1969, I had a brief, albeit intoxicating, exposure to Jungian analysis in San Francisco. In the later part of 1969, by a way of powerful and unusual synchronicity, I have been told about a Los Angeles organization called Builders of the Adytum, which had been founded by Paul Foster Case, who I was to much later find out had been a participant in Golden Dawn Temple of the earlier 1900s. It took a full year for the connections to ripen before I embarked upon Case's excellent correspondence lessons in a committed way. His work introduced me to an exciting, enriching world of symbolism of tarot, Kabbalah, and the basic ritual. These lessons provided me with a solid foundation which has played a significant part in my magical career ever since. In the first year, I had a profound sense of sudden major change of consciousness which manifested as a frequent mystical-like experience as a daily pervasive feeling of numinosity regarding my experience of life around and within me. As I took back my early journal entries during this year, on the surface, they appear naive, almost childlike, to the extent of a newfound trust in the transpersonal and a sweetness and joy with life. This was not unlike what Rigardi had referred to in The Eye and the Triangle as the awakening, which comes unbidden and cannot be determined by good work. Good works, conscious wishes, or the best of intentions. My former way of experiencing life was over and behind me. I had truly become a fresh, inquisitive child of the universe. I enjoyed this upwelling type of experience almost daily for at least a year, as an infant enjoys suckling the warm, nourishing breast. But the child was to grow into greater consciousness and light, although the child leads with delight, sparkle, vivaciousness, responsibility, hard work, and even the pain of struggle and loss are inevitable once psychic contact with the gods presents the challenge towards further consciousness and inner growth beyond the safety of womb, near birth, and breast. And I believe I'll wrap it up right there for video 1, introduction.